At 3 a.m., I got a text about my daughter-in-law. You deserve to know the truth about Ashley. At first, I thought it was spam. Some cruel stranger texting me in the middle of the night. But then came the second message. She's not who you think she is. Please, meet me tomorrow. You need to hear this. I stared at the screen, my thumb frozen above the block button. 2 hours earlier, I'd been sitting alone in my dining room, the candles long melted, staring at cold lasagna and a row of untouched cupcakes. My house was silent, except for the tick of the wall clock. I had spent weeks planning this birthday, my 60th. Michael promised they'd come. We wouldn't miss it for the world, Mom, he said. And Ashley, well, Ashley never promised much. But I still baked her gluten-free cupcakes because I wanted her to feel included. The kitchen still smelled faintly of frosting and garlic when I gave up and sat down with a glass of wine. That's when I opened Facebook. Ashley had just posted. Her and Michael, smiling on a yacht, sunglasses on. Lucas, my grandson, giggling in Ashley's arms. Family cruise day 1. So blessed to spend quality time with the people who matter most. The people who matter most. I pressed like anyway. Then I forced myself to type a comment. Looks like you're having a wonderful time. Can't wait to hear all about it. It felt like swallowing glass. I don't remember cleaning the dishes. I just remember staring at the reflection of those gold 60 balloons drooping behind me. And then the text came. You deserve to know the truth about Ashley. I almost laughed. Was this some joke? A scam? But before I could delete it, my phone buzzed again. She's been lying to your son for years. And Lucas isn't his child. The air left my lungs. I gripped the phone so tightly my fingers went numb. At first, I thought replying would be a mistake. But then he sent one line that made my blood run cold. You've seen what Ashley is capable of, haven't you? I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. This has to be a scam, I told myself, but my thumb didn't move to block him. Something about his words, calm, deliberate, didn't sound like a stranger fishing for money. I typed, "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared. "Call me Brian, and if you care about your son and grandson, you'll meet me tomorrow. I'll prove every word I say." For the next hour, I couldn't put my phone down. The house was silent, but my thoughts were deafening. Who would send something like this? Why would anyone lie about Lucas? I wanted to believe it was all nonsense. I wanted to believe Ashley, despite her coldness toward me, wasn't hiding something so monstrous. But in the back of my mind, pieces started sliding into place. Ashley's cutting little remarks about Michael's softness. The way she bristled when Lucas called me Grandma. The time she intercepted my call and told me Lucas was too busy to talk. He's 4. And then the way Michael's eyes always darted to her before answering me. Like he needed permission to speak. The wine turned sour in my stomach. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same cafe, corner of 5th and Maple. 10 a.m. I'll wait 1 hour. After that, you'll never hear from me again. By 9:45, I was parked outside the cafe, gripping the steering wheel like it might fly away. This is insane, I told myself. I should turn around. I should call Michael. But then I saw him, a man in his late 30s, clean-shaven with tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He sat at a corner table, hands folded neatly, staring out the window as if he already knew I was watching. When I walked in, he stood. "Mrs. Evans?" His voice was low but steady. "Yes," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." I hesitated, then lowered myself into the chair. Brian pushed a folder toward me across the table. "I know this is hard to believe, but Ashley, your daughter-in-law, she wasn't always Ashley, and she wasn't always your son's wife." "What are you talking about?" I whispered. "She destroyed my life before she came for yours." Brian opened the folder. The first page stopped my breath. A photo of Ashley, but younger. Her hair was darker, but her eyes were the same. She was standing beside Brian, holding a baby boy. Her real name is Amanda Williams. She changed it after she left me and our son. One day she disappeared with my money, my car, and my best friend's husband. I stared at him, my hands trembling. "You're lying," I said, but my voice cracked on the last word. "I wish I was." He flipped to the next page. A DNA test. 2 names, Brian Carter and Lucas Evans. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. My stomach lurched. "Lucas," I whispered. "Yes, Lucas is my son, not Michael's, and I have proof Ashley, has done this to 2 other families." I felt my chest tighten. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't let her do to Michael what she did to me. You need to stop her." Before I could ask more, Brian leaned in and said something that made my skin crawl. "Ashley is filing for power of attorney over Michael's assets. You're running out of time." Brian's words echoed in my ears long after I left the cafe. "Your daughter-in-law isn't who you think she is. And she's done this before." I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles burned. The whole drive home felt unreal, like I was moving through fog. Ashley, Amanda, whatever her real name was. She had married my son under a fake identity, stolen another man's child, and somehow she'd convinced Michael to turn against his own mother. By the time I got home, I couldn't tell if my heart was pounding from rage or fear. I sat at the kitchen table in the same spot where I had spent my birthday night alone. Except now I wasn't crying. I was shaking with something colder. Brian's folder still lay on my passenger seat, but I didn't need to open it again. I couldn't stop replaying the images in my mind. Ashley in a white dress. Ashley smiling beside men who weren't Michael. Ashley signing checks with a different last name. And Lucas, my sweet grandson, who wasn't even my son's blood. The next morning, Brian called. "I didn't tell you everything yesterday," he said. "I wanted to give you time to process. Tell me now." She ruined 2 other families before mine, emptied their accounts, left without warning. One of those men, he hasn't seen his child in 7 years. My hand tightened around the phone. "She's calculated," Brian continued. "She doesn't love. She doesn't attach. She studies her targets, isolates them from everyone who could see through her, and then drains them dry. By the time they realize, it's too late." I thought back to every little moment that didn't make sense. Ashley accidentally forgetting to tell Michael I'd called. Her asking Michael to transfer their accounts to make things easier. The way Michael looked at me like a stranger the last time I knocked on their door. "Mom, Ashley's family now," he had said. No, she wasn't family. She was a predator. Brian's voice broke the silence. "Margaret, I think she's after Michael's assets. It's what she does. She moves on once she's bled a man dry." My stomach turned. "I saw something in the records," he added. "She's already filing for power of attorney over Michael's finances." The air left my lungs. "She wants control, Margaret, of everything. And if she gets it, there's no undoing it." I stood up so fast my chair screeched against the tile. "I'm hiring a lawyer," I said. Brian was quiet for a moment. "She'll come after you if she suspects you're digging." "I don't care," I said, my voice shaking. "If she wants a war, she's got one." That night, a letter slipped through my door. The return address made my blood run cold. Ashley Evans. Inside, it said one sentence: "Stay out of this, or you'll regret it." The letter trembled in my hands. Ashley's handwriting was sharp, deliberate, almost elegant, but the words cut like glass. "Stay out of this, or you'll regret it." I read it 3 times, my stomach knotting tighter each time. I wanted to believe it was just empty posturing, a desperate woman bluffing, but deep down, I knew better. Ashley didn't bluff. She calculated. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael's face, my son, who used to call me every Sunday just to ask how my garden was growing. And I saw Ashley's hand curled around his arm, pulling him further away from me. Her voice echoed in my head, words she had said the last time I visited. "Michael doesn't need to be worrying about you all the time. You're making things harder for him." But she wasn't protecting him. She was isolating him. And now she was circling for the kill. The next morning, I called Brian. "She's trying to scare me," I said. "That's what she does," he replied. "She wants you to freeze. Don't give her that power." I won't. Good, he said. Then we start fighting back. By noon, we were sitting in a lawyer's office downtown. Her name was Rebecca Ford, sharp as a tack and with eyes that seemed to see straight through lies. Power of attorney? She asked, flipping through the papers Brian had found. If she succeeds, she can liquidate Michael's assets and leave him with nothing. I swallowed hard. Can we stop her? Rebecca looked up. We can build a case, but we'll need proof of manipulation, coercion, fraud. And we need to move fast. She handed me a notepad. Write down everything you remember. Every red flag, every time she cut you off from Michael, every odd financial move. The smallest detail could help us later. I gripped the pen so tightly my knuckles ached. 2 hours later, Brian and I sat in my car in the parking garage. You're scared, he said quietly. Not for me, I said. For Michael. He doesn't even see what she's doing to him. Brian turned to me, his voice low. She'll come after you harder now. She's good at turning people against each other. That's how she wins. I shook my head. Not this time. That night, my phone rang. Michael. Relief washed over me, until I heard his voice. Mom, he said, his tone flat. Why are you trying to ruin Ashley's life? My mouth went dry. What are you talking about? She told me you're spreading lies about her, that you're working with her ex to dig up dirt. Michael, listen to me. No, he snapped. Ashley loves me. She's the mother of my child. You're just bitter because you feel left out. Left out? I whispered. You need to stop this, he said coldly. Or I'll have no choice but to cut you off completely. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Ashley had beaten me to him. The next morning, Rebecca called me in a panic. Margaret, Ashley's selling Michael's house. If we don't act now, it's gone. I didn't wait for an Uber. I grabbed my keys and drove, my hands locked around the wheel as if I could crush it in my grip. The neighborhood blurred past me, but in my mind, I kept seeing the house, the one Michael and I had painted together before his wedding, the one where Lucas took his first steps. I wasn't going to let her take it. When I reached their street, my stomach dropped. A black SUV idled in the driveway. 2 men in suits stood by the door, flipping through papers. A for sale sign was propped against the garage, not yet planted in the ground. I slammed the car door and ran up the walkway. Excuse me, I shouted. The men glanced up, startled. This house isn't for sale, I said, my voice shaking with fury. The taller man frowned. Mrs. Evans? Yes, I snapped. We're with Horizon Realty. We were told to list the property immediately. The homeowner signed. I'm the homeowner's mother, I said. And there's no way my son agreed to this. A voice cut through the air behind me. Yes, he did. I spun around. Ashley stood in the doorway, arms folded, a smirk curling her lips. Margaret, she said sweetly. What a surprise. Ashley, where's Michael? I demanded. He's resting, she said. You've upset him enough already. I know what you're doing, I hissed. You've manipulated him. You're selling this house out from under him. Ashley's eyes glittered like ice. Michael asked me to handle everything. You're not part of this family's decisions anymore. I stepped forward, but she blocked the door. You need to leave, she said, not until I talk to my son. You're not talking to him. Michael, I shouted. Michael, it's your mother. Please, come out. There was movement behind her. Michael appeared in the hallway, his face pale, his eyes tired. Mom, he said flatly. Michael, she's lying to you. She's selling your house behind your back. Ashley turned to him, her voice soft and soothing. She's confused, sweetheart. She's trying to cause trouble again. Michael, listen to me, I cried. She's not who you think she is. She's already filed for power of attorney. She's going to take everything. Michael's gaze shifted between us. For a brief moment, I thought I saw doubt in his eyes. Then Ashley touched his arm. She's jealous, she whispered. She can't stand that you're happy without her. Michael's jaw tightened. Leave us alone, Mom, he said. Ashley's family now. The words hit harder than a slap. Michael, go home, he said. I don't want to see you here again. Ashley closed the door in my face. The lock clicked. I stood there on the porch, staring at the wood grain. My own son had chosen her over me. And somewhere in that house, Ashley was smiling. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. It was my bank. The woman on the line said, "Your name has been removed from all joint accounts." I gripped the phone tighter. "That's impossible. These are joint accounts with my son." "He wouldn't." "There was a request filed last week," she interrupted. "It was signed and notarized. Your access has been revoked." My knees threatened to buckle. Ashley. This was her doing. 20 minutes later, I stood in line at the grocery store, clutching a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. The cashier swiped my card. "Declined," she said flatly. "That's not possible," I said, my voice too loud. "Do you have another card?" I fumbled in my wallet, heat creeping up my neck as the line behind me grew restless. Another swipe. Another decline. The man behind me sighed audibly. "Come on, lady. Some of us have places to be." I wanted to disappear. "Just put it back," I whispered to the cashier. She shrugged and reached for the items. As I walked out empty-handed, I could feel the eyes on my back. Ashley hadn't just taken my money. She'd taken my dignity. I drove home in silence. On my porch, I found a box. Inside, my wedding china, the photo of me holding Michael as a newborn, and a single envelope, a note in Ashley's handwriting. "Thought you'd want your old junk back. Don't come around again." My phone buzzed. Brian. "Margaret, I've got something," he said. "Unless it's a time machine, I don't want to hear it." "You'll want to hear this," he insisted. There was steel in his voice now. I dug deeper into Ashley's past. There's another child, one she abandoned years ago. And the father's willing to talk. My breath caught. "She's done this before?" "Yes, and if we get his testimony, it could bring her down." I stared at the box on my porch, at the shattered pieces of my life Ashley had so neatly packed away. This wasn't grief anymore. It was rage. "She thinks she's untouchable," I said softly. "She's not," Brian replied, "but we have to move carefully." The next morning, I got a voicemail from Ashley. Her voice was low, venomous. "Stay away, or you'll never see the kids again." I clutched my coat tighter as the wind whipped across the diner parking lot. Brian had insisted on meeting here. Neutral ground, he said. Safe. Inside, a man sat in the corner booth, hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug. He looked older than his years, shoulders hunched as if the weight of Ashley's betrayal had never left him. "Mrs. Evans?" he asked, standing when we approached. "Yes," I said quietly. "Call me David." David didn't waste time with pleasantries. She called herself Amanda when I met her. We were married for 3 years. At first, she was perfect, charming, attentive, the kind of woman who made you feel like the center of her world. I swallowed hard. "That didn't last, did it?" I said. He gave a bitter laugh. "No. Once she had access to my accounts, she drained them dry. Then she took our son's college fund and disappeared with a man from my office. I came home one day to an empty house and divorce papers in the mailbox." Brian leaned forward. "What about the child?" David's jaw tightened. "She left him too. Our son was only 5, said she wasn't cut out for motherhood. She hasn't seen him since." I felt my stomach twist. "Her pattern," Brian said. "She loves the money, not the family." David nodded. "And she's good at making men doubt the people who care about them. My parents tried to warn me, but I defended her every time. I see now they were right." He fixed his gaze on me. "Don't make the same mistake." As we drove away, my mind reeled. Ashley, Amanda, had already destroyed 2 families, and now she was circling Michael like a vulture. "She won't stop unless we expose her," Brian said. "She'll come after me harder," I replied. "Then we need to be smarter." When I got home, my phone buzzed. A voicemail. It was Ashley. Her tone was cold, venomous. "You've stuck your nose where it doesn't belong. Stay away, or you'll never see the kids again." My hand trembled, but not from fear. Not anymore. I called Brian back. My voice didn't shake this time. "We need to gather evidence. If she wants a war, she's about to get one." Brian and I sat across from Rebecca at her office later that day. You're saying she's alienating Michael and cutting you off from the grandchildren? Rebecca asked. She's doing more than that, Brian said. Ashley has a pattern. She isolates, manipulates, and drains her targets. We've spoken to another victim. Same tactics. Rebecca steepled her fingers. If we can show a history of coercion and fraud, we might be able to stop her from taking further control of Michael's assets. She glanced at me. We'll need witnesses. People who've seen her true nature. By noon, I was making calls. The first was to Clara, the nanny who had cared for Lucas before Ashley let her go. She's dangerous, Clara said over the phone. One moment she's the perfect mother, and the next she's screaming about things that didn't happen. I didn't say anything because, well, she made me sign an NDA. She can't enforce it if we're investigating fraud, Rebecca reassured her. Clara hesitated. Then her voice hardened. I'll tell you everything. Next was Emily, an old family friend Ashley had frozen out over the years. She started planting seeds early, Emily recalled. Little things, telling Michael you were too overbearing, too dramatic. At first he'd laugh it off, but over time I could see him pulling away from you. She wanted you gone. I gripped the phone tighter. She's still doing it, I said. Margaret, don't let her win. You've already lost too much. By evening, the folder Rebecca had given me was filling with notes, names, and statements. Ashley thought she'd erased her tracks. She was wrong. Brian called just as I was pouring a cup of tea. I recorded her voicemail, he said. Her words alone sound threatening, but we need more. Something that shows she's capable of harming Michael or the kids. We'll find it, I replied. There was no hesitation in my voice anymore. A knock startled me. I set down the tea and went to the door. Michael stood on the porch, shoulders slumped, his eyes heavy with something I couldn't read. Mom, he said softly. I didn't move. Michael, what are you doing here? I need to talk. Michael stood in my doorway like a man caught between two worlds. His face was pale, lips pressed thin. In his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Hesitation. Can I come in? He asked softly. I stepped aside without a word. For a long moment, he didn't speak. He just stood in my kitchen, staring at the stack of papers on the table, the same folder that held Ashley's tangled past. I've found something, he said finally. Ashley's been texting a man I don't know, late at night when she thinks I'm asleep. My heart clenched. Michael, he held up a hand. Don't. Just tell me. Is there more? Am I crazy? Or is my wife hiding something from me? I walked to the table and picked up the folder. Before I show you this, I said, my voice trembling, I need you to understand something. I didn't go looking for this to hurt you. I found it because she's been hurting all of us. Michael's hands curled into fists. Show me. I opened the folder and slid the first photo across the table. Ashley, younger, with a different man and a child in her arms. That's Brian, I said, Lucas's biological father. Michael recoiled as though the paper burned him. What are you saying? I flipped to the next page. The DNA test. Lucas isn't yours. Ashley lied. And she's done this before, Michael. Twice. Different names, different lives, always leaving devastation behind. His face crumpled. No, she wouldn't do that. She loves me. She loves control, I interrupted, and you've given her all of it. Before he could answer, the front door slammed open. Ashley stood there, her eyes blazing. So this is where you've been hiding, she hissed. Michael spun around. Ashley, she cut him off, her voice rising. Don't listen to her lies. She's manipulating you because she can't stand that you chose me over her. She stormed toward the table and snatched up the DNA test. Really, Margaret? This is how low you'll go? Digging up trash to destroy my family? This isn't trash, I said, my voice steady. It's the truth you've been running from. Ashley laughed, sharp and bitter. You're pathetic. Do you really think Michael's going to believe you over me? I looked at my son. I don't want you to believe me, I said. I want you to look at the facts and decide for yourself. Michael's face was ashen. Ashley, is it true? He whispered. Her expression hardened. Don't you dare ask me that. You know I love you." Ashley's eyes darted to the doorway as Brian stepped inside. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Hello, Amanda. Remember me?" Brian's voice was calm, but his eyes burned as he stepped into the room. "Hello, Amanda," he said. "Or should I say Ashley? You've been busy these last few years." Ashley froze. For the first time since I'd known her, her mask slipped. Not fully, but enough to reveal the sharp edge beneath. "You," she spat. "You have no right to be here." "Neither do you," Brian shot back. "But here you are, different name, same tricks." Michael's gaze darted between us, confusion and anger battling across his face. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Ashley, is there any truth to what they're saying?" Ashley's voice softened instantly, sugar sweet. "Baby, listen to me. These people are trying to tear us apart because they're jealous of what we have. Your mother has never liked me, and now she's feeding you lies to get me out of the picture." "You've been feeding him lies for years," I snapped. "About me, about Lucas, about everything." Ashley turned on me, her eyes flashing. "You're pathetic," she hissed. "A lonely, bitter woman who can't stand that her son grew up and doesn't need her anymore." My hands tightened on the edge of the table, but I didn't back down. "You can say whatever you want about me, but don't you dare use my son as a pawn in your games." Brian tossed a folder onto the table. "Here's proof of her marriages, her name changes, her financial fraud. You think you're special, Michael? You're her third husband. She's done this twice before." Ashley's voice rose to a shriek. "Don't you dare listen to them. It's all fabricated. They're trying to poison you against me." Michael staggered back a step. "Ashley, is it true?" Her face shifted, softness giving way to fury. "You're really going to question me after everything I've done for you? After I gave you a family?" "You gave me a family?" Michael's voice cracked. "Is Lucas even my son?" Ashley's lips parted, but no sound came out. In that silence, everything broke. "You're all pathetic," she screamed suddenly, grabbing her purse. "You'd be nothing without me. I'm taking the kids and leaving tonight." As she stormed out, Brian's hand shot out to block the door. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "Not until the truth is on the table." Brian's voice calm but deadly. "It's not nothing. That envelope holds the truth, and tonight, everyone's going to hear it." Ashley's hands shook as she clutched the DNA papers, her polished veneer crumbling with every passing second. "You had no right to do this," she hissed. "No right to pry into my life." "It stopped being your life," Brian said coldly, "the second you started destroying theirs." Michael stood frozen, his eyes darting between Ashley and me. "Ashley," he said, voice low, "is this true? Is Lucas really—" "Don't you dare finish that sentence," she snapped, her tone venomous now. She stuffed the envelope into her bag and grabbed Lucas's hand. "Come on, sweetheart," she said, her voice dripping sugar again. "We're leaving." "Ashley, wait," Michael said, stepping forward. "We need to talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," she screamed. "If you can't trust me, then this marriage is already over." Her mask was gone now, the sweetness replaced by raw, seething rage. She yanked Lucas toward the door, but before she could step outside, red and blue lights flashed across the windows. A police cruiser rolled into the driveway. Ashley froze. What is this?" she demanded, her voice wavering for the first time. Rebecca stepped into view behind the officers, her arms crossed. "I filed an emergency injunction," she said. "You're not taking those kids anywhere." Ashley spun toward me, her face twisted with fury. "You!" she shrieked. "This is your doing. You've been plotting against me from the start." "No," I said quietly. "This is me protecting my family from you." Lucas clung to her leg, wide-eyed and silent. "Ashley Evans," one of the officers said, "we need you to step outside and speak with us." Her eyes darted around the room, wild and unmoored. "You're all pathetic," she screamed. You'd be nothing without me. Nothing. Michael stepped forward, his voice shaking. Ashley, stop. You're scaring Lucas. Her grip on the boy loosened. I won't let you take him from me, she whispered, almost to herself. You already did that the moment you lied, Brian said softly. Ashley looked at him then, her lips curling into a snarl. You think you've won? She spat. This isn't over. I'll make you all pay for this. As the officers guided her outside, a crowd of neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Ashley twisted in their grip, her voice carrying across the street. You're ruining everything. Do you hear me? Everything. Her scream echoed as the car door slammed shut behind her. As the cruiser pulled away, Michael sank into a chair and whispered, Mom, what have I done? The house felt too quiet after the door slammed shut behind Ashley. Michael sat hunched in a chair, his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he could burn holes through it. For years I had begged him to see what she was doing. For years he had defended her, choosing her over me every single time. And now here we were, what was left of our family sitting in ruins. She was my whole life, he whispered. I didn't speak. She said I was her rock, he went on, his voice cracking. She told me no one would ever love me the way she did, and I believed her. You're not the first, Brian said gently. Michael looked up, his eyes red. Lucas, what do I even say to him? You tell him the truth, I said softly. You tell him you'll never let her hurt him again. Hours passed like a blur as Michael scrolled through text threads and bank records, slowly uncovering just how deep Ashley's manipulation ran. Credit cards maxed out, accounts drained, messages to strangers that made his stomach turn. I don't even recognize the woman I married, he said bitterly. You're lucky you're seeing it now, Brian replied. She doesn't leave most men with anything but scars. By nightfall, Michael had made his decision. I'm filing for divorce, he said. She's not taking another $1 from me. Rebecca nodded approvingly. We'll draft the paperwork immediately, and given the evidence, we'll move for full custody. The house felt different now. For the first time in months, there was laughter in the living room. Lucas sat cross-legged on the rug, stacking wooden blocks as Brian knelt beside him, showing him how to build higher without the tower collapsing. Michael sat quietly on the couch, staring at his son. His eyes were tired, but the coldness I'd seen in him for years was gone. I can't believe I let her twist me up like that, he murmured. She's good at it, I said gently. She made you feel like you had no one else. Lucas clapped as his block tower reached its peak. You're really smart, Brian, he said. Smarter than Daddy. Michael managed a weak laugh. I think he's got you there, I teased. But when Lucas leaned into Brian's side, resting his head against him, a shadow passed over Michael's face. After dinner, Lucas crawled onto my lap with his stuffed bear. Grandma, is Mommy still mad? He asked softly. She's taking some time away, I said carefully. Is it because of me? I hugged him tight. Never. You're the best thing that's ever happened to this family. Later that night, I found Brian in the kitchen, staring at the floor. You're worried about him, I said. I'm worried about all of them, he replied. But yes, Lucas especially. I knew what he wasn't saying. Lucas still didn't know the truth, that Brian wasn't just a family friend. He was his father. The next afternoon, Michael stepped outside to take a call from Rebecca about the custody hearing. Brian and Lucas sat on the porch, sunlight filtering through the trees. Do you like playing with me, Brian? Lucas asked. I do, Brian said softly. Very much. Lucas was quiet for a moment, then tilted his head. Why do I feel safe with you? Brian froze. I watched from the kitchen window, my breath caught in my throat. Brian sat stiffly on the porch steps, his hands clasped tight as Lucas looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Are you my real dad? The boy asked again, his small voice carrying through the quiet yard. Brian exhaled shakily. I am, he said softly. I've always been your dad. I just wasn't here before. Lucas tilted his head. Because Mommy didn't let you? Brian's throat worked as he nodded. That's right, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. From the kitchen, I watched the moment unfold through tears that blurred my vision. Lucas reached out and wrapped his arms around Brian's neck. "I like you," he murmured. "Don't go away again." "I won't," Brian said, his voice breaking. For a moment, there was peace, a fragile kind of healing that felt almost too delicate to last. Then my phone vibrated on the counter. Unknown number. I hesitated, but something in my gut told me to answer. "Hello?" "Margaret." A familiar voice purred. My stomach dropped. "Ashley, you really think you've won, don't you?" she said, her tone dripping venom. "Enjoy your little victory while it lasts, because I'm coming for what's mine." I forced my voice steady. "You've lost, Ashley. Michael's divorcing you, and you're not taking those kids." She laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Oh, you poor thing. You really think the courts will side with an old woman and a man who isn't even Lucas's biological father? You've given me all the ammunition I need." Rebecca called 10 minutes later, her voice tight. "She's filed for full custody," she said. "Her lawyers are aggressive, and they're painting you and Michael as unstable." "She doesn't care about those children," I said through gritted teeth. "She doesn't have to," Rebecca replied. "She just has to make the judge believe she does." That night, Michael sat at the table, his head in his hands. "She's going to try to take them from me," he whispered. "Lucas, Emma, she'll poison their minds against me the same way she poisoned mine against you." "Not if we stop her," I said firmly. Brian nodded. "She's a master manipulator," he said. "But this time, we've got proof she can't twist." The next morning, I met Rebecca at her office. "We're gonna need everything," she said. "Character witnesses, records of her past fraud, and we'll subpoena her former husbands if necessary." "I'll do whatever it takes," I said. "You may have to testify," she warned. "I'm not afraid of her anymore," I said. "Let her hear my voice in court." Rebecca looked up from her laptop, her expression grave. "Brace yourself, Margaret. Ashley just hired one of the most ruthless custody attorneys in the state." The courthouse smelled of old wood and fear. I sat beside Michael, clutching his hand as Ashley entered the room with a dramatic flourish, her lawyer trailing behind her like a shadow. She wore an ivory dress and pearls, her hair pulled back in a perfect chignon, an image of grace and innocence designed to fool anyone who didn't know better. To the untrained eye, she was the devoted mother, fighting for her children. But I knew the truth, and so did the man sitting behind us. Brian, silent and seething, ready to finally unmask her. Ashley's lawyer rose first, a tall man with a sharp suit and sharper tongue. "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "my client is here because she fears for her children's welfare. They are currently in the care of a grandmother with no legal guardianship, and a man who," he glanced at Brian with deliberate pause, "is not even related to them by blood." Ashley lowered her eyes and dabbed at an imaginary tear. "She only wants to provide a safe, stable home for Lucas and Emma," the lawyer continued. "A home free of the confusion and hostility created by the grandmother's interference." Michael's knuckles whitened. "She's twisting everything," he whispered to me. "Not for long," I said. Our turn came. Rebecca rose, her posture as precise as her words. "Your Honor, the petitioner has a long history of manipulative behavior. We will demonstrate, with evidence and testimony, that she has systematically deceived her spouses, drained their finances, and abandoned children when it suited her." Ashley stiffened. Rebecca continued. "She paints herself as a victim, but we have witnesses who will show otherwise." One by one, the pieces fell into place. David, her former husband, testified via video call. "She left me and our son with no warning," he said, his voice tight. "Took every dollar she could. I haven't heard from her in years." Clara, the former nanny, spoke next. "She'd scream at the kids when no one was watching," Clara said. "She cared more about her Instagram than their happiness." Ashley's mask cracked. She shot to her feet. "This is a smear campaign," she cried. "They're all lying because they hate me." "Mrs. Evans, sit down," the judge said firmly. Rebecca dealt the final blow. "We have evidence that the petitioner attempted to intimidate the respondents with threatening letters and voicemails." Ashley's face went pale. Brian played the recording. "Stay away or you'll regret it." The courtroom fell silent. When the judge recessed for the day, Ashley pushed past us in the hallway, her eyes blazing. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "Tomorrow, I'll take everything from you. The kids, the house. You'll be left with nothing." I met her glare, steady and unflinching. "You've taken enough from this family, Ashley. Tomorrow, you lose." The courtroom was silent except for the creak of the judge's chair as he leaned forward, hands folded. "I've reviewed the evidence presented over the past 2 days," he began, his voice steady but heavy with finality. "This case is not about the grievances between adults. It is about the welfare of 2 innocent children." Michael squeezed my hand so hard I thought my fingers might break. Ashley sat poised in her chair, her posture perfect, her eyes glistening as though she had rehearsed the moment of her tragic victory. "The petitioner has presented herself as the more suitable guardian," the judge continued. However, Ashley's head tilted slightly. "The weight of testimony and documentation paints a very different picture." Her smile faltered. "This court finds that the petitioner's history of deception, financial exploitation, and emotional instability raises serious concerns about her fitness as a parent." Ashley's mouth parted in shock. "Therefore," the judge said, his gavel in hand, "I am awarding full custody to the respondent Michael Evans, with supervised visitation rights granted to the petitioner at the court's discretion." Gavel slam. Michael exhaled a shuddering breath, tears spilling down his cheeks. "She can't take them from me," he whispered, as if trying to convince himself it was real. "She never will," I said softly. Ashley stood slowly, her chair scraping across the floor like nails on glass. "This is a mistake," she hissed. "You're all making a huge mistake." "Mrs. Evans," the bailiff warned, stepping closer. She ignored him, her eyes locking on mine. "This isn't over, Margaret. You've been plotting against me since day one. You think you've won because of some old men in robes? You lost because of your own choices," I said calmly. As she was escorted toward the exit, Ashley twisted in the bailiff's grip. "You're all pathetic," she screamed. "I built this family. You'd still be nothing without me." Her words echoed off the walls as the doors slammed shut behind her. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. Brian put a protective arm around Lucas as cameras flashed. "Is Mommy going to jail?" the boy asked softly. "Not yet," Brian said quietly, "but she won't be hurting anyone for a long time." Rebecca approached, her expression grim but victorious. "I've already filed motions to restrict her access to the kids further," she said. "She's under investigation for financial crimes from her previous marriages. It's only a matter of time." Michael nodded, his face still pale. "She'll try something else," he murmured. "She always does." "Then we'll be ready," I said. 1 year later, I blew out my birthday candles surrounded by the people Ashley tried to steal from me. Lucas sat on Brian's lap, giggling. Michael smiled softly, a hand on my shoulder. We were whole again. Ashley wasn't here to ruin it. Ashley's facing years in prison. And me? I finally got my family back.